My name's David Lorimer, and I'm here with Honorary Member Dr. Ervin Laszlo, speaking from his home in Tuscany, and I'm speaking from southwest France. So this is an international conversation, and this is the series of honorary member interviews that I've been doing with our honorary members for our Jubilee year. So Ervin, welcome to this interview.
David,
and I'd like
I'm
to
pleased and honored to be here with you. Thank you.
Very, very nice. I'm going to jump straight into the first question, which I think is an interesting one from your point of view, and that's who or what inspired you in your line of work? And of course, you have many lines of work. So I'll be very interested to see your response or to hear your response.
Initially, it was through a fluke kind of accident that I came across the work, the tremendous work of Northrop and Whitehead first of all, and FSC Northrop and Henry Margenau. And some of these people, Northrop and Margenau and so on, they were members of the Scientific Medical Network. So my inspiration came first of all from the process philosophers. And these process philosophers are widely represented, I think, in the network. So I'm very grateful to have been able to join through the leadership of some of the people that I met. I met Margenau then in person in Switzerland while I was working there. And he carried me further to Northrop and to Bertalanffy and others. And so one person led to another, and the work that has been done in process philosophy, holistic process philosophy, has been pioneered by the network. And to be in contact with that pioneering group has been a great privilege and a very decisive turn in my thinking.
Well, that's very generous of you, Ervin. I wanted also to ask, I think you had an uncle who was interested in philosophical topics. Did he
Yes.
encourage you at an earlier stage when you were still a concert pianist?
He asked the big questions, which I didn't take seriously at the time. But when I got into my respective age of 20 or 21, I got back to these questions. Up till then, I was very taken up as a concert pianist. And I got back to these questions. The answers that I got were not really satisfactory to me. They were remarkable answers, but they followed Nietzsche and the German romantic philosophers. And I thought we should consult also science and the up-to-date thinking about the nature of the world and the nature of the human being. So I went further, but I owe to my uncle the interest that I had, that he planted in my mind while I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, which then came out to flourishing in my around 20 or 21 when I moved to New York and was in company with young people who were interested in philosophy and in science.
No, that's very interesting because there's always this personal influence, I think. And then what do you regard, Ervin, as your most significant contributions? Because you've made a lot. So which ones stand out to you in terms of the ideas and theories you put forward?
I think what seems to catch on particularly is the idea of an interconnecting field in which all things are recorded and all things can be recalled again. That field, which has been associated with the idea of an akashic dimension in the universe, and that I have called together, I think, with others, the akashic field. That seems to have caught on a great deal. The other element that I think is connected to this, that is to me is important, is the discourse on the nature of consciousness. A very big change of the idea of the mainstream idea of Newtonian philosophy, which really has no space, no room to put consciousness anywhere among the main concepts. Consciousness as a hallmark of the universe, perhaps as typically the universe being a field of consciousness. not a subject predicate, that the field that has consciousness, the field that is consciousness. That, I think, is another idea that I like to represent. And therefore, it also has a great impact on thinking about the continuity of consciousness as being beyond that continuity of life of the body. So these things, I think, to my mind at least, are important. And it seems to me that it has also been meaningful to a growing public that keeps thinking about these ideas, and they're being developed further, which is what my intention was.
Yes, very much. And we've lived through this and are still living through this revolution in the understanding of consciousness, with more and more people coming to the view that consciousness is either fundamental or primary.
Absolutely, yes.
And that's an important part of our joint work. And then, Ervin, how do you see the evolution of consciousness studies and the relationship of science and spirituality evolving over the next 20 years or so?
And there's this incredible coincidence which is being revealed or discovered, that the key concept of the ageless concept of Buddhism, Hinduism, of even the Muslims and the great spiritual streams, that these ageless ideas are being reflected, recovered, revealed again at the leading edge of the new sciences, holistic sciences, the quantum sciences, the sciences of consciousness and of life. It's coming together. There's no contrast. There is a difference, obviously, in emphasis. There's a difference in formulation between the spiritual definitions and the scientific definitions. But when it comes to the bottom line, what does it mean? Then there is a remarkable agreement. But one finds also the other. There is an agreement there. And that is not something that we bring about. That's something that comes about. It comes about, I believe, in a realistic way, because there is something in the universe which corresponds to these ideas. These ideas are not purely imaginary, not arbitrary. There is something there to which they refer. And this reference is not applicable to the Newtonian, Darwinian views, or Freudian views for that matter. It is applicable only to an interconnected consciousness field, consciousness-based concept of reality. That is a new development in the sciences, an old factor already in the spiritual disciplines, and the new and the old are coming together in an ageless concept.
Yes, I very much agree with that. And obviously the work of Stan Grof integrates this into a new philosophy in psychiatry, along with your own work. I think it's also interesting that there's more visibility now for pantheisms or panentheism in philosophy and psychology. And so there's been a recent conference in New York organized by Philip Goff. And so even mainstream philosophy is beginning to move in our direction, I think.
That is a remarkable development indeed.
Yeah.
There is in the academic world, there's a necessary delay in going from the key thinkers, which are operating outside the mainstream, until they get accepted in the mainstream, and until the mainstream can hand it down to the next generations. There's a delay, probably of several decades. But when the main ideas, the principal developments are taking place nonetheless, even if it does take time.
Yes, I think so. And I think the next thing they need to do is actually to look at the evidence that we're familiar with and then see how their philosophy stacks up against that.
Well, it'd be interesting for you to look at your books on the survival and on continuity of life and consciousness, which are, I think, very, very topical today. They are on my desk always. I was looking to them. Together with your poems, they make a remarkable testimony of a universe that is not a mechanistic, immaterial, passive universe, but a dynamic, living universe of which we are a part. And that key concept of holism, of the integrality, of oneness, which is coupled then with the idea of the felt intuitive idea of love. That is a remarkable development. Love is no longer a purely a romantic notion. Love, it turns out to be a necessary part of the attention, of the as inspection or attitude, I would say, of the attitude of mainstream serious thinkers and to each other. We and nature altogether can only work together and create coherence in the world if one part feels the equivalent of human love to the other parts.
Very much. Thank you for that, Ervin. And then how do you see the significance of the network in this evolving process? Because you've been associated with the network for quite some time, and you've spoken to mystics and scientists, Beyond the Brain, and various other events. And a very parallel, of course, with your own Laszlo Institute, the Club of Budapest, and other initiatives that you have founded.
Bringing together people who are like-minded, who can learn from each other. That's a key task, and the network is performing that. Already, the idea of network, it's coming in. It's not just a information network or communication network. It's a network of meeting of the minds, a network of like-minded people beginning to think together, sharing their thoughts, sharing their processes. And the fact that they have a group of people who call themselves a network already going back these many years, half a century, I would think, or perhaps more, that is a remarkable heritage which requires to be lived up to and developed. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Ervin. And in fact, it's interesting to reflect that when the network was founded in 1973 as an informal group, it was the first usage of that term that's now so familiar, of like-minded people coming together. And so they decided to call it the Scientific and Medical Network. And of course, since that time, there's been enormous developments in the concept of network and networking.
Indeed. But the importance of it is ever more evident and ever more being taken care of, ever more being activated. Networking today is a way to move forward, to move together. So networking is something that could be a prolegomena to thinking together and then to acting together. Here is
Very much.
The first,
yes, sorry, do finish your sentence.
The first and important step toward creating a better world.
Yes, thank you. And then my final question is a more personal one, which is, what have been your most important lessons from life, both personally and professionally?
That we are not separate beings. I think that's today it's becoming so clear. But it's something that one has to learn. That I'm not outside of society or nature. I'm not outside of anyone around me. I am in them and they are in me. This encompassing oneness is, I think, the key lesson one learns. Feel it that we have be a part of not just life, but of the universe in a larger sense. We are part of the evolution that unfolds in the universe since the Big Bang. God knows, 13.7 or 8 billion years ago, is a process has been taking place, moving time and space entities, events toward coherence, even though there are incoherent and chaotic segments and elements and periods, but on the whole, there's a buildup of structure, life, and that means coherence of organic and supraorganic as well as transorganic coherence. That is something that to feel part of, that is a wave, that is a development that takes place. To be one with that makes sense for one's, give sense to one's life. That to me is the most important lesson that I keep learning over and over again.
Thank you so much, Ervin. I very much resonate with that. It's been my own main insight is to feel and understand and be part of this evolving oneness. So I'm very much looking forward to our discussions around our new book, The Great Upshift, which is coming out later this month, October 2023, and to remaining in contact. So thank you very much indeed for your time, Ervin.
Absolutely, David. I'm so delighted to have you as my co-author in The Great Upshift. It was a great collaboration, and we have to carry it forward, and I think we will carry it forward together. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you.